Hello and welcome. Today we have several interesting stories, including one about a mom who tried to protect her son from entitled old woman and got shamed for it. Sit back, relax and enjoy.
First story.
Am I the idiot for pulling my daughter from a waterpark trip because her teacher made her stay with a kid she doesn't like? My daughter Bryn F9 is going on a trip to a nearby waterpark with her class next week. She loves water and has been talking about it for months, so I was a bit thrown off when she came home crying a few days ago and told me she didn't want to go. I asked her why and she wouldn't tell me because she thought I'd think she's a bad person. When I finally coaxed it out of her, she said her teacher, Ms. N, has forced her to be the buddy of her classmate, Ben, for the entirety of the trip. She was to ride the bus with Ben to and from the trip, eat lunch with him, and go on all the rides with him instead of spending time with her friends. She then said nobody likes Ben because he whines whenever they have to do work and picks his nose and wipes boogers everywhere. I was horrified, not only because Ms. N had made Bryn do such a thing, but also because she had made her believe she was a bad person for not wanting to. Unfortunately, this wasn't my first experience with Ms. N, as she frequently used my soft-spoken, intelligent older daughter as a behavior buffer for the naughty boys until I threatened to report her to the superintendent. It's clear to me that Ms. N is still too comfortable with enforcing archaic gender roles on her kids and forcing girls to do unpaid emotional labor for the sake of the boys. I immediately sent Ms. N an email condemning her actions. She sent me back an email with a bunch of BS that basically ended with, "If Bryn goes on the trip, she has to be Ben's buddy." Fine. I informed her Bryn would not be attending then. I immediately booked VIP tickets the same day her class was going so she could still go to the park and see her friends. What happened next I wasn't expecting. Bryn is quite popular, so I have gotten to know a lot of the moms in her class. When I let them know what Ms. N did, some of them were so horrified that they also pulled their kids out of the trip. In total, 8 kids, out of a class of 20, are either not going, or going with us. Today I got an email from Ms. N saying that because almost half of the class isn't going, they either have to raise the cost for the other students or not go at all. She practically begged me to let Bryn go and tell all the other parents to let their kids go, promising she wouldn't make Bryn do anything she didn't want to do. I told her she should have thought about that before she tried to make my daughter do her job.
My husband said I was being a bit petty and that Ms. N clearly feels bad about what she did, and I should let Bryn go as I've already gotten my way.
He asked me if I really wanted to deprive children of what they've been waiting for all year. The thing is, if this wasn't Ms. N's first offense I probably would have agreed, but she has a pattern of this type of behavior and hopefully this will put a stop to it. Plus, if she has to explain this to her superiors, I have receipts. Is my husband right, or am I justified? Top replies. Am I alone in suspecting that the teacher isn't so much feeling bad about what she did, but faintly terrified of either having to explain to her superiors why the trip is suddenly in jeopardy, or the backlash from other parents when it comes out why the trip she organized has fallen apart? Not to mention that if you've booked VIP tickets, I'm going to guess that if you did cancel your plans to suit her, you'd end up paying twice over. Once for the school tickets, and again for the VIP tickets you've already bought. Not the idiot, I'd stick with a simple, "Sorry, I've already committed to and paid for my own arrangements for that date now," with a possible unless other parents ask and you actually can rearrange without significant personal loss. Second reply. She doesn't feel bad for her actions. The proof is in the fact that this was brought to the teacher's attention that her daughter was upset and that she was upset, yet the teacher stuck by it. That is only until it affected her. She didn't care that the girl was upset and is just being a bully because she can.
Totally agree. Not the idiot, and I hope that original poster sticks to her guns on this one and decides to keep the VIP tickets and use those.
I get half the kids might not get to go now, But that's definitely the teacher's fault rather than original posters, because if the teacher had decided to change her mind sooner, none of this would have happened. It just prevents her from bullying her daughter in the future, since it has consequences, and prevents her from bullying other students in the future if her superiors get involved. That said, I think she would lie about why it happened, and I personally would go to them and tell them why only half the class is going as well as everything else the teacher has done. That way they know this isn't an isolated incident, and so she can't lie about the reason why. Because if she lies, in my experience, they believe the teacher. I wouldn't leave that to chance. Third reply.
What concerns me about the teacher's plea is the comment, she won't make Bryn do anything she didn't want to do.
Until the day of the trip, when she will most likely guilt sweet 9-year-old Bryn, and make her feel like an awful person if she doesn't babysit Ben. I am a big supporter of teachers. Their job is not easy, and I understand the tremendous effort it takes to meet each student's needs. As a mom of girls, we had our share of excellent and grossly unprofessional educators. As parents, we have to advocate for our kids, and this mama do the right thing. Original poster. Not the idiot, teacher is wrong. Second story. Alright, so my son, 17, has weekly therapy appointments that I take him to. Unfortunately, my husband let our daughter borrow his car and then had an emergency at work, so he had to use my car, so my son and I had to take the bus. It wasn't ideal, but I'd rather the bus than miss an appointment. While it isn't my place to share why he goes to therapy, I will say that he will often forget to eat. I usually make sure he's fed, but due to the mess in the morning, it slipped my mind. The bus wasn't too crowded, but all the seats were taken. My son wasn't doing too well, and I could tell he was feeling dizzy from hunger plus the bus. So the second someone got off their seat, I sat him down. I then tried to find a chocolate bar I had in my bag. While this is happening, I noticed an elderly woman and her adult daughter standing beside us. I didn't pay much attention until the daughter tapped me on the shoulder. She asked if my son could move so that her elderly mother could have a seat. I felt really bad, I really did, but my son was not doing great and standing would make it harder. I had found the chocolate and he was eating it slowly, but if he stood up right then, I can assure you he would have fainted. I apologized to her and explained that my son wasn't feeling well. She rolled her eyes at me and said that she saw him standing earlier and that he's a young healthy teenage boy, he'll be fine. I apologized once again and told her that he wasn't feeling well and that if he was then he himself would have offered her a seat. The daughter told me to look at her mother, and I admit, the poor woman looked really tired. But I couldn't.
My son had started to lean against me, so I told the woman one last time that I was sorry and to ask someone else. I then heard them both whispering and calling me an entitled bitch.
When we got off the bus, a woman that got off with us said that a teenage boy can handle standing more than an elderly woman can, and that she hopes someone treats me like that when I'm her age.
My son was so out of it, I don't think he even noticed or cared, but I can't get this off my mind.
Am I the idiot? A totally unrelated woman thought I was along with the two. I wasn't sitting down and did not have a seat. The top replies, not the idiot. You handled it the same way I would have, politely explaining that your son wasn't feeling well and needed to sit. I'm sure there were many other people they could have asked, and many other people that could have offered, so I'm not sure why they felt the need to pick on you and your son. The original poster replies, I'll be fair and say that of all the people on the bus, my son was the youngest, so I suppose I understand the thinking. Everyone else sitting on the seats were elderly or women. The second reply, not the idiot. Then one of the not elderly women could have given the elderly woman a seat. They did not. While he isn't feeling well on a public transport bus doesn't convey more than a sense of mommy's boy wants to sit down, with 2 cars to your household, and the way you vaguely answered those people, you're probably wealthy enough to not be familiar with riding the bus. But you knew the situation was bad for your son and that your son needed to sit down, and they are not required to know that. So not the idiot. To be very clear, it's not some kind of a bus culture, or anything like that, it's more just about how people who ride the bus talk to each other. Some are nicer than others, but in my experience, most of them are one of two ways: quiet, or blunt and conversational. Personal problems are an open topic among regular bus riders, especially if someone wants your seat and you're not visibly in a worse physical situation. I rode the public bus for 13 years, including during its change of ownership, before moving close enough to my place of work to walk to work. I would gently suggest that if this situation happens again, and you don't wish to tell people what's happening with your son, perhaps a few words could be shaped similar to something like, "I'm sorry, but he's on his way for help/medical assistance, otherwise yes, but right now he needs to sit down. If I had a seat I would have given it to your mother myself." If you want to, then you could follow it up with, "But as you can see I don't even have a seat because I gave it to my son for his health." If you want to be extra nice, you could always offer, "If we leave before another seat becomes available, then we'll let you know so she can sit down." Also, if you do offer to let them know when the seat is available, don't forget to do so. It would just be rude if you didn't do it after offering.
Anyway, if they pressed the issue after that, they would have either looked like the Oz, although probably no one would care, or you would have realized what a sexist area you live in.
A lot of people who ride the bus have issues, physical and mental, and a lot of them understand you can't afford another way to get to medical help. It's nothing new. Most regular bus riders will only speak up in defense of people they know really well, so there's usually no support either way, and if the situation goes on for too long, the bus driver will have the final say because he's on a time limit and has to get going. Third story. Am I the idiot for telling my boyfriend I'll shave my legs if he shaves his? I know this post sounds super petty, but this is the most ridiculous fight I've had with my boyfriend, and unfortunately it's where we're at. I, female 28, have never shaved in my life. I think it's up to the person regardless, but I've also just never really had a lot of hair. My boyfriend recently stayed over and asked to borrow a razor. Since I don't shave, I didn't have one on hand, and apparently that grossed him out. He told me that it was unhygienic to not shave, and we argued back and forth about the issue when I finally told him that I'd only start shaving my legs if he shaved his first. He called me immature and petty, whereas I think he's being super fixated on this weird thing. It honestly wouldn't really bother me to shave, but I'm just more irked at his statements where he basically called me Director Ty.
I was serious though. I'll shave whenever he shaves too. We're at an impasse, but I wonder if I am being a little too petty about the whole thing.
The top reply. Not the idiot. Do male leg hairs not collect the exact same amount of Director T? The hygiene argument has always struck me as utterly weird. Second reply.
Me too.
The bizarre distinction between male and female hair is so weird. I have always had long hair, and naturally, some of it ends up in the shower drain, and yes, it's habit to clean the drain after every shower, but occasionally a few strands end up elsewhere. I had an ex-boyfriend who consistently raised hell about how disgusting it was to see my hair in the shower, which always sorta baffled me anyway. Yes, it fell out while it was being washed, and I also make an effort to remove as much as I can because clogged drains suck. But who was also perfectly happy to use his beard trimmer over the sink and leave short little spikes everywhere. That clogged up the sink and ended up in my toothbrush. And who I cannot never, ever remember cleaned his bathroom at all in 4 years. Third reply. Not the idiot. It's sexist for him to say that you not shaving is unhygienic. That's a BS lie and is not even close to factual. If he didn't notice on his own that you didn't shave, then I don't know why it suddenly bothers him now. I quit shaving at 20 and I'm not going back. None of my partners have ever had issues with it, and my current partner of 10 years doesn't give two fucks about it. If he has a problem, just remember there are lots of folks out there who wouldn't care. Fourth story. Am I the idiot for yelling just leave me the fork alone during a family dinner at a crowded restaurant? For context, my brother, 26 male, and I, 18 female, have never gotten along. He's hated me since before I was even born. He spent my entire childhood controlling everything I did, watched, and even ate. At Christmas he pissed me off. I was quite proud of myself for buying my first vehicle all on my own. He called my truck a POS. Then said to our parents, insurance companies statistically have higher rates for female drivers than males. He was absolutely insinuating they shouldn't put me on their policy. Simply because he's been on their policy since he turned 16 and has never paid for insurance. He knew damn well he was getting bumped off when I was added. First of the year, our mom told him to get his own policy. He was pretty salty about that. Fast forward to this past weekend, it was our dad's birthday. Honestly, I didn't even want to go and sit through my brother's usual nonsense about how great he is. But I went, and as usual pretty much remained quiet. My brother asks, so when are you moving out? I was like, excuse me? He says, you're 18 now, you need to get out on your own now. Literally no one said anything, so I told him it's none of his business. He says, well, I moved out at 19. Here's where things spiraled. I said to him, you're not even on your own yet since you haven't bothered paying a single penny of rent in 7 years. He was fuming and tried changing the topic. My mom made a comment about that soon changing. Brother's girlfriend was like, what? So I told her, he moved out at 19 and hasn't paid our parents a penny of rent all these years. She was livid. Unbeknownst to anyone at that table, she had been paying my brother rent for 2 years because he led her to believe he was paying rent. The topic went off somewhere else. Then right back to me. My brother trying to give me fatherly advice by saying I should focus on my current job and forget wasting time with college. This was absolutely unsolicited advice. It pisses me off when he does this because he always does it, and acts like because our age gap he has so much more knowledge than stupid ass me. He again comments about me moving out, says to our dad, I can't believe you haven't kicked her out after she brought all those animals in your house. They both laugh. I had enough. I got up from the table and yelled, just leave me the fork alone. My mom understood, but she doesn't want the family to fight. My dad said I was extremely rude by lashing out, caused a scene, made undue stress and embarrassed everyone. Apparently after I walked out, my brother says, well, she obviously has something wrong in her head. I felt bad because I'm sure a few kids dining with their families heard me, and I shouldn't have cussed in front of them. And I guess I should have held it in and dealt with it later, but I've always let this crap slide and I was sick of it. Am I the idiot? The top replies, not the idiot. He had it coming and he deserved it. I know that's the petty side of me talking. The mature side says, stop allowing him to get under your skin. Siblings can pull out all the rage, so easier said than done. When you drop the bomb that he's not paying for rent, at that point, everything should be all smiles. Next time laugh and say, you'll move out when he's done paying his girlfriend back for 2 years of rent. If he brings it up again, ask him or her, if she's there, if the rent was repaid yet, and say nothing else. If he keeps bringing it up for future gatherings, then ask him why it is important to him. Then keep asking why. Never answer, because it's none of his concern. The only response is the same question or variation. Why are you worried about it? Why do you care? Why are you asking? What does my whereabouts have to do with you? His response doesn't matter, because he doesn't care. Or, you can take the high road. Say, thank you for your concern. I see you care about me and want me to be independent, however, this isn't the most appropriate time to discuss this, and I believe this conversation is best discussed privately with my parents. Let's instead enjoy a delicious meal and talk about great news or things we're grateful for this week. What do you think? Good luck. My brother got better in his late 30s. Marriage and kids definitely helped him mature. I hope your brother matures faster and you can experience the pleasure of having a sibling that has your back.